from the order on the agenda. Our new fire chief has a flight out of town, and in order to give him a chance to make his resolution request, we'll go ahead directly to you. Paul?
Thank you for making that adjustment. Forgive me for not knowing the procedure, but would you
Raise
like?
the mic up to your mouth, pretty close. It's got to be close for it to work.
All right,
Yeah.
very good.
He's too tall for that mic. We'll have to buy a new one.
No, thanks again for having me and entertaining this resolution on relatively short notice. Just for proper procedure, do you guys read the motion or want me
Yes.
to, or?
No. Well, I have the motion already
Okay,
prepared.
you already have it. I'll give you a little background on the need and necessity and some of the background. But in my previous employment in Ohio, I was very familiar with the Assistance to Firefighters grant application process and wrote several grants. And on my transition here, I know and knew of the application deadline for October 26, 2018. So that was on my radar when I started here October 4th, and I spoke with Deputy Chief Childers a little bit and Hiram as well about the AFG. So what I did was started going through some folders right quick in the chief's office to get an understanding of what's been applied for in the past and so forth. And pretty quickly I found that the town Sunset Beach Fire Department hasn't applied for this big federal grant since 2011. So I started doing a little research and talked to some folks from FEMA and got the login reactivated and got in there. And then if I can read a bit about the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program, if anybody's unfamiliar with it. But the primary goal of the AFG is to enhance the safety of the public and firefighters with respect to fire and rescue related hazards by providing direct financial assistance to eligible fire departments, EMS agencies, and even some state fire training facilities. The funding is critical for needed resources to equip and train firefighters to recognize standards, enhance operation efficiencies, and foster interoperability with other agencies and support community resilience. So my time in Sunset Beach has obviously been relatively short to this point. However, one of the obvious observations that I made very quickly was there's a lot of water, a huge water rescue component in some situations, not only the folks that live in town year-round, but also the huge influx of tourists that come. And the water rescue component, not only the education, but the training of our firefighters and the equipment. There is quite some substantial water rescue equipment that the fire department already has. I did evaluate, and I come from northern Ohio, right on Lake Erie. It's not the Atlantic Ocean, but similar water rescue capabilities I'm very familiar with. And I've been on everything from driving a 30-foot fireboat to jet skis and small boats as well. So if that gives you a little perspective. So some of the equipment that we do have, there is a need to update some of that equipment. There's a need, and I'm a big proponent of training personnel to be able to do the job fast and quickly and smart as well. So with this type of grant, not only is there a big equipment cache that I'll be seeking your support to pursue, but also a huge training component to that. But we're going to look at some of the boat operations. You know, I've heard about different calls and some fatalities and different rescues on the beach, also in some of the shallow areas. So I want to make sure with this grant funding, our capabilities are utmost capable to handle all those situations. Also, I will be writing, with your support, the grant to also this is a equipment cache and rescue capability not only for Sunset Beach, but when our neighbors need it, we'll certainly be able to provide them assistance as needed, you know, especially like with Hurricane Florence coming through and flooding in the other areas. If our neighbors need the help, we'll be fully capable. So a couple things specific to this grant. I will need your support to pursue the grant today, as October 26th it would be due. So with your support today in this resolution, I will get to work on the keyboard and write the grant to get it submitted by the 26th. Typically, the timeline, it won't be, selection process won't start until March of 2018, with potential awards not even until June or after of next year. So there's a significant timeline. So as far as your budget, I know on the resolution, you see a big portion that would be FEMA funded and a smaller portion town funded. So depending on when we would get that grant, the budget cycle may be this year or next year as far as our 5% match.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to file a motion granting Chief Hassemeyer permissions to seek funding for water rescue equipment and training through a grant offered by FEMA.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Just a question, what kind of, can you give us a sense of what equipment, is there specific equipment you have to specify when you do the grant request?
Yes, sir. So not totally it won't be a line item type list, but I have some friends that are on Ohio Task Force 1 that are actually on a Swiftwater team deployed to Florida right now. Some of their resources are, you know, the federal level Swiftwater teams. Ours will be downsized a bit from that, but several John boat type items, V-bottom boats with outboards, Swiftwater suits, PFDs, throw ropes, that sort of equipment with trailer capabilities. And I foresee us being able to basically hook our equipment with a pickup truck or a staff vehicle and take it to the beach, be able to take it to any boat ramp, any neighborhood that's flooded, and be able to deploy it quickly from ground level.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Other discussion? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
You forgot one and a
You already got one?
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Seems like a terrific program for us.
Very good.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
I'll get to work on it, and hopefully we can be successful.
No typos.
Have a safe trip.
Okay, well, let's go back now to old business and item F, workplace violence prevention and safety policy discussion, and Hiram is going to lead us in that.
Yes, sir. We presented this to y'all back in August for the September 18th meeting discussion, and Florence happened. So it's presented today for y'all's discussion after having received it. Included in the packet are both the policies, what's been rewritten by our attorney with his stamp of approval, and then there's also Councilman Serrato's comments that he had provided to us since the last meeting where this was discussed.
Thank you, Hiram.
Oh, just to clarify, this is just for discussion. We're not looking for a vote today. Just to put it up to the next meeting, which I think is the 4th, not the 5th. Or is it the 5th? It's listed as 5th on here, so. I can't remember. I've been saying November 4th, but I think it is the 5th.
Okay.
I have a couple questions.
I have a question
Go ahead.
of Hiram.
Go ahead.
What other towns have a workplace violence policy, and could we take a look at them?
I don't know off the top of my head. I haven't researched any of that. I do remember I had one in a previous location I had worked at. It was in the personnel policy.
I would like to see some from the other beach towns. I would like to see what they have as their policy.
If that's what the council wants.
Other comments?
A couple, two quick questions. In section 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph down, my question is, if we're having this list of people who've been identified, who keeps the list? And how do we know about that? And then the second part of it is, says somebody who's on this list is not permitted to face-to-face meetings with the town council. Do
Town
you mean-
personnel.
With town personnel, sorry. Are you precluding, does that mean a one-to-one meeting, or does that mean they can't have any meeting at all? I mean, such as if somebody is on this list, can we have 2 town personnel attend? That's the clarification I'm looking for. Is this absolutely, if they get put on that list, are they completely banned from coming into the town and talking to anybody directly, even with a second staff person there?
I think the way it was intended originally was to prevent the person who felt unsafe from having to deal with the person that makes them unsafe. So I would say that dealing through a mediator, for instance, the next sentence goes on and say, instead, identified individuals should be directed to email any questions they may have.
Okay.
And then, you know, it'll be through a mediator, in my opinion. For clarification for everyone to understand, this is really, we can't determine what makes someone feel unsafe. I mean, someone feels unsafe, they feel unsafe, and the town really has a responsibility to address it. So to that end, I wouldn't recommend saying, oh, you have to meet with them, but we'll have someone else there. That doesn't really always make someone feel better. Now, if they agree to it, then that's on them.
Okay.
But I'd
So
say
your point is,
from a town
no
perspective,
face-to-face meetings, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 staff members that there at the time.
I believe that's the way it should be myself. But like I said, this is for, you know, the town to protect its employees. The employee can still take the actions themselves against this policy. It just wouldn't be recommended, and they probably would be, you know, penalized.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to get involved in this conversation directly. I've submitted my concerns formally, so there's no misinterpretation. But I will comment on the fact that right now we do have a sign-in program. And I will also comment that a number of months ago, we identified the building services area as a potential concern, safety concern. And the town was supposed to provide the staff with a plan to address that issue. Has that plan been done?
There's a plan in place, but we need to talk to contractors and whatnot on developing the wall, basically be walling it off and then having a service window.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all that got pushed back due to recent storms and events, so.
No, all right, because this was addressed, I believe, during the budget
Yeah,
session.
the
a
money's
number of
in there
months
to be
ago.
done sometime this year, and we are working on it. It's just, it's
So,
not a.
yeah,
snap
it would be
fingers.
nice to have that quickly, so we can study it and move on with it, because that's the only area where I see as a potential concern. Because Cindy's out there alone, there's no egress, and that's the only area that I worry about.
We are working on it.
Thank you.
Other comments?
Another,
No.
I've another kind of question that goes through there. The visitor logs located at the reception desk, okay. The way it's written, it applies to the mayor and all the town council members as well, as we all sign in each time.
That's correct.
What kind of enforcement do we have? What happens to me if I don't sign in?
Go to jail.
The way it's currently written is just.
I fully agree with that approach.
The way it's currently written is just that visitor logs are there. I mean, I can't make someone sign. This isn't like a doctor's office checking in for their appointment. If someone refuses to identify themselves, that's, you know, they're right.
Well, could staff then not service them, if you will, answer their questions, not give them a permit? I mean, you know, for us, it's just walking in and out. I mean, that's, I understand that. And so our responsibility should be to sign in each time, to set the example for the community. But if you have an individual who comes in and refuses to sign in, then what do we do?
We treat them like every other citizen and answer their questions and issue their permits and, I mean,
This,
we could go that far if you'd like, but the way it's written, there's not really a punishment, it's more of an identifier. So that we can, if someone did have a problem with someone, there's proof that they were here. Or something to that effect.
the first thing in security is knowing who's on the premises, who's in the parking lot. Well, I'm speaking of the high school where I worked. And a lot of people didn't like signing in and getting visitors badges, but they got used to it. And I think anyone comes in this building should sign in. I don't know what we do about all these people here that didn't sign in. But there's no way for you to do it when you come in this way. I did write something up. This will only take a minute. We must provide a safe, secure workplace for our employees. I've seen instances where a person becomes angry and argumentative and raising their voice at both entrances to town hall. This was before and after I was elected to town council. The employees handle themselves very well under extreme circumstances. I did not have to ask our employees if they were uneasy or afraid. It was obvious that they were. And yes, I would have intervened if it had worsened. We must protect our employees, whether it be from a contractor, someone trying to get a hurricane pass, anyone else that enters the building. That's it.
I guess my concern would be the very individuals who may present the greatest danger, may be the ones who would not want to sign in. And since each individual who comes needs some guidance to get back into the building, there would be an opportunity to say, you need to sign in order to come back, and try to get everybody's identification that way. Does that sound practical to do?
They try. I'm just saying, I don't have any legal requirement that can make someone say that they were here, but we do have them on camera. You walk into every door in this building, you're on camera.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're identified in some form or shape or another. I know the pretense here is, I don't know why the visitor logs are really the hot topic, to be honest with you. We have the cameras, we have people, most people we do recognize, most people do sign them. It's just, and then no one's been obstinate about signing them. They've just been like, I'm not going to sign that. Yeah, it's not been a point of contention. It's just, you know.
Hiram, has anybody refused to sign the log?
A few people, yeah, but it's not like they've, like I just said, they haven't been obstinate about it. It's just been casual. I don't feel like signing that. I mean, and it's nothing hostile. It's just some people are that way.
I mean, did they forget, or are they just, because it's new, they didn't see it, or?
I don't know. I don't sit at those desks all the time.
Now, are these sign-in logs, are they at all buildings?
No.
Like the second fire station, the first fire station?
We don't have them yet at the other buildings. They're only in town hall right now.
Is it your plan to put them in the other buildings? So if I go to
If-
the fire station 1, I sign in?
If the policy's implemented, then yes.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Jan.
Is it possible for the receptionist to write their name in if they refuse to sign, just so we know who was in the building?
I can ask them to. I just,
I've
if it's given.
seen that happen. We can't expect Cindy and Joanne to demand that somebody sign the log or refuse service. But when I've heard them ask people to sign in, it's always been non-threatening, and I say, well, we have a sign-in policy, would you please sign the log? And we do have the camera backup system. The sign-in log, someone could write down Joe Blow when they come in. The fact is that people know that we're serious about safety in the workplace. And this puts the idea in their head. I don't see a way to just, well, sign in or you're out of here.
I just want to point out that the meat of this policy is more important to me than the people signing in a log. I mean,
Yeah.
the crux of it is our employees sometimes don't feel safe, and we need some kind of measure that gives us grounds to stand on when they don't feel safe. And that's what this policy is trying to present.
Yeah, I have no problems with the policy. I was just clarifying a couple of the terms. The one I didn't hear an answer, maybe I fell asleep real quick, was who keeps the list if we have a
Right.
list of those people who constituted a concern?
The policy states that the people are supposed to be submitted to HR, the town administrator, when they're feeling safe in writing. So it'd be, the town administrator would probably keep the list, but that list would also be given out through the reception to let them know who's not, if someone comes in to ask for somebody, they get their name, they know, no, I need you to, instead talk to this person or something like that.
Cindy and Joanne for sure would need to know.
Yeah, now if they're the
who's on
unsafe
list.
feeling, then we'd have to figure out something else. But essentially, the master list would be still held at the town administrator's office.
I've got no problem with the rest of the policy.
I guess I need to ask council permission if the council doesn't want to do it. I would like to see policies from other towns for their workplace violence, local towns. I would like to see that. I would like to review other policies.
I've got no problem with that.
So then bring it back for discussion again next month and not have it at the November 5th meeting, because that'll probably entail another discussion, right? I'm asking.
Maybe, yeah. Is there any rush?
We've got one in place currently that y'all don't like, or some of y'all didn't like, so that's why we're rewriting. So I'm fine with what we've got.
I'm sort of the position, it's always good to look over other models of how people have done things, so I think I would benefit from that. I do have a couple of other things that I think should be in the policy. First, I think we should have a policy statement prepared in such a way that it could be placed on walls in appropriate places as a reminder to everyone within the building of what we consider to be safety concerns or workplace violence. I think that is actually pretty typical. And a couple of comments in here suggested that these were not policies that could do anything to prevent violence. I wonder if we're thinking about training programs for our employees to help them identify early signs of potential problems might be valuable and might also be valuable to the community. If there is a problem, do we have some protocol for stress debriefings? That is sometimes included. And finally, some kind of information collection system. Hopefully there'll be so little that seems strange, but that we are collecting data about the number of incidents. I just glanced through some recommendations from the State Human Resources Manual and OSHA and the Department of Labor, and these were things that were common to all of those places, and seemed to me like they would improve our policy. Any thoughts about that?
Mr. Mayor, if you read my response letter, and based on my experience, one of the things that we focused on considerably was to educate our employees to identify, or if they had a concern, and to bring it to the attention immediately to their supervisor or security department or HR. That's where we based our focus. We did not have a workplace violence policy. Workplace violence is a criminal offense. We do not have a policy with workplace violence. We focused our total energy on helping employees to feel comfortable to file a concern, so that they didn't fear that there would be any retaliation whatsoever. We've tried to train them to spot different things that could be a concern, and to let people know of any fears or anxieties that they may have. It was very successful. Workplace violence policies do not prevent workplace violence. Things sometimes just happen. I've been involved in a number of workplace violence matters, and it requires police intervention, both the campus police and the Boston or Cambridge police, depending upon where the incident occurred. HR, they're very sensitive matters, and they're very legal matters. So my attention would be focused on training our staff how to handle a potential concern, so that if they feel uncomfortable, they have a script to know what to say to the person. Hi, I'll be right back, I need some assistance, so that they know what to do. And I think most people in this town, I think our staff should know what to do, but I don't know if they know what to do. But I think that's where our attention should be.
And I would say once we have our materials in order, that it would be appropriate for training programs for all of our current employees, and then it should be a standard component of new employee orientation as well. And part of it would be just to emphasize that this is a matter that we all take very seriously and don't tolerate. Hiram, is there anything else you want from us today?
Nope, I'll have it ready for y'all for 11:20.
Okay, and if nothing else, other council members?
It's got a little stand on it, holds the microphone.
Okay, our next item is under old business, item G, Citizen Beach parking discussion, page 26 in your packet, and Councilmember Serrato will be initiating this.
I have in the packet a little background discussion regarding beach parking. I met with Hiram, and we sat down and we identified potential, I guess that's the best word, potential sites that could be used for citizen beach parking. My concern is basically that there is a lot of development both in the town and in surrounding communities, particularly off of Georgetown Road. I think there's a new development now going up, and the additional homes that are being built in Ocean Ridge and so forth, and our town. That is going to create additional parking strain at the beach. The more people, the more congestion. And before our opportunities are severely limited, I would like to identify in closed session because knowing real estate issues are very sensitive. And to identify what Hiram and I looked over and the potential possibilities and determine if this is something that we should move forward to. And naturally, like anything else, we need also a financial analysis to make sure that we can do it if we decide to do it. But my concern is beach parking is going to be very limited in future years. And I think we owe it to our taxpayers to at least make an attempt to have a dedicated parking area for our citizens. That's the first step. There's other steps that could follow, but that's the first step. But we need to have a meeting that Hiram can display the sites that he's identified, the potential sites that could be, and see if it's plausible.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Please.
Just to clarify, when you say our citizens, you're speaking specifically of Sunset Beach
Yes.
citizens?
And that has to be.
Has to be defined.
Yeah, well, the taxpayers, property owners.
Okay, so somebody.
Renters.
So, okay, that's defining.
Everybody.
That's defining.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking out loud, if all went well, we find, and we identified an area, then we have to know what the cost is, if the site needs prep work, and also, maybe we have to charge them $40 or $50 a year for a sticker or something to help offset the cost and to maintain the area. So there's a lot of things that have to be discussed, but the first thing is the land available? Are there sellers available? And that's what we have to explore.
Other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
it would be nice to have some parking at the beach for town residents. I think we all agree on that. And I agree that the staff doing a feasibility study is a good idea. But I have some questions that would need to be answered during the study. How many parking spaces would be available? Would we be building a parking structure? Is there a rough idea what this would cost the taxpayers? We'd have land acquisition costs, site prep, stormwater, and would we have a parking attendant to enforce the restrictions? The big question is, can we legally use public funds to build a parking lot restricted to town residents only? I would want to see a cost-benefit analysis. But at the same time, I'd like to see the town revisit the island parking regulations. I disagreed with Carol Scott when she said that there were parking spots available at any time. After driving the island 4 or 5 times this past summer, looking at cabana issues, pedestrian safety, and parking, I changed my mind, and I agree with Carol. I always found a parking spot. Were they convenient? No. They were parking spots. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Other comments, questions? All right. Well, Rich has put this in the form of a motion to explore the feasibility to have island beach parking.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I would like to file a motion to explore the feasibility of beach parking for Sunset Beach citizens and to have this agenda, this item placed on a closed session agenda for a more detailed discussion with the town administrator.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, in new business, we have dealt with A already, and,
You added an old business item.
The SUV.
oh, yes,
Oh.
thank you.
I forget where you were.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. We made a number of decisions about dredging at our special meeting, but one decision that I think we all had said was very important and we did not decide was who the recipients of our letter should be. And it seems to me we've got three basic choices. One, that we send the letter to all property owners in Sunset Beach, or sort of at the other end, we send the letter only to affected property owners, those on waterways, or third, something in the middle. For example, we send a postal letter to waterway frontage property owners and send an email message to other property owners and put it on the website. So I wonder if we could have some discussion about which of those routes we prefer. John?
The idea of just sending it to the waterfront property owners or to the property owners and then putting it on email or website is sort of, on one hand, it's cost effective, but we know from experience that not all the property owners have email, and not all the property owners look at the websites. So I think if we're going to do this, it should go to all of the property owners of Sunset Beach, whether they are waterfront property owners or other property owners. They have an interest, they have a concern. The others, for example, have a very active concern over the payment, and it should be clear to them, you know, that we're considering that they not be involved in the payment, and that we should put that in writing. So my view is, for clarity for all of our residents, it should go to everybody, even though it is more difficult for the staff and it is more expensive with the mailing.
Okay. Thank you. Other comments?
Yes, I
Jan?
would like to see it initially go to the affected property owners first. Get it to them first. You may even want to adjust a letter that goes to everybody to a degree, but I think the affected property owners need to know as many details about the project and how it's going to affect them. And they need to know it now.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, real quick, while we're in the matter of the details of the letter.
Yes.
Just a reminder that I know y'all have made a motion for how you would like to do the assessment, but it's not legal until you have your public hearing. So the letter might need to be adjusted, that the route the town plans to take. So while it's not an official detail yet, you still let them know that your proposed
Yeah, well,
route.
that'll still be part of it.
Well, I understand, but while we're talking about the details here, that's just something that needs to be clarified out there, that this is still not a final set in stone thing either.
Yes, thank you.
But the discussion at hand, though, is who would receive the letter, not the content of the letter.
Right.
Okay.
Well, Councilwoman Harris was talking about the details being for the reason it should go to the specific waterfront people for their details of it. I just wanted to point out that if that's the reason, the details themselves still are soft. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, the mayor has, I believe, submitted 2 letters for us to review and suggest changes and so forth. Regarding the letter, I agree with both John and Jan. I think the letter should go out with as much information as we know, which is always subject to change. Nothing is ever final, I've learned in life. But to give them at least an idea of the concept. And I also believe it should also go to all the taxpayers in the town for information. And it'll put them at ease to know that if they're not going to be involved in the payment of this directly. And so I would suggest that it would go to everybody in the town. I think John suggested that. And it should be a hard copy. And whatever the postage is, that's the cost of business. That's the cost of communication. And this is a very critical issue. We've been dancing with it for 3.5 years. And so I think communication is critical. So I would suggest simply that whether or not we need a second letter to the mainland people or to the West End people on the island that are not impacted, I'm open to that, but I think a letter should go to everyone in the town, every taxpayer.
Okay. And just as a note, there'll be a third draft coming out here. I mean, this is a really important letter, and you all keep making helpful comments, and
It's critical.
Mr. Mayor,
please.
I have had a suggestion from a member of the community, and I think it's a very, very good suggestion that when the letter goes to the affected property owners, we get some kind of commitment from them that they understand that they will be paying for this.
Do you know?
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
my concern is, I'll tell you exactly what my concern is. My concern is, because we're so late in getting the information to these people, my concern is that because the town pays for this up front, I mean, this is the town's burden until we're paid back. And that takes place over a 3-year period. And I would like to know that we have a commitment from those property owners, that they understand that they will be paying for it. Because if they decide, if a number of them decide not to pay, all the option we have is to put a lien on the property, and we'll be holding that debt until that property is sold. So that's my
Mr. Ma-
concern.
Jan, do you or does anyone know if that kind of request has occurred in the past in any way? Are there any models out there?
Well,
or-
what happened in the past, and it's not the case with this dredging project, is that in the past, the last one was in 2002, but I think there was an effort in 2010 to do a dredging of the canals. But at that time, in order for the town to take this on, this debt on, the property owners, affected property owners, had to be surveyed, and they had to get 50% agreement plus one. And if they didn't get that many, which is what happened in 2010, then the project wouldn't go forward. That is no longer the case with this project.
Well, this project is mandated, which is, I think, the reason for the grant. And it's needs to be understood, and I think it was included in the letter, that there will be maintenance dredging. This is going to be a continuing payment, and the town is going to have to set aside some money in case there are delinquent payers. Now, there's at least there's getting the information in for the number of boat owners, but the only thing that I'm saying is that when you mandate something, you have to be financially a little more accommodating, I believe, to give them extra time to pay, because this is going to occur every 3 to 5 years. And the next payment for the dredging will not have grant subsidization, probably, I don't know. So they're going it'll be less cubic yardage to dredge, but the cost of it is still going to be a sizable chunk of money. A lot of people don't have boats. They may resist. They may say, screw it, I'm not paying it. They can, when I die, my son can pay the lien on the house when he sells it or so. I don't know. I don't know what goes on in people's heads. People are usually responsible, so I don't know. But I think Jan's point's well taken.
Other comments, John?
All right, the question at hand is this letter, which we have not agreed on the contents, but we know has to have a lot of information to be clear. Should it go to everybody, or just the waterfront property owners, or use internet and rely on that to help there? All these other questions will come up when we talk about the letter and go through it, and they're very important questions that need to be there. I'll go back again. I said at this point in time, not having a letter in hand, but a draft that we're still working on, my view is that everybody should get this and get the same information at the same time with the best level of clarity that we have at this point.
Yeah, I think we all agree to that.
Well, John, if you will put, I mean, we can accept that as a motion. I mean, it's,
Okay, I move that the dredging letter go to all of the taxpayers, property owners of Sunset Beach.
all right, is there a second?
I second.
Discussion about that particular wording for the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Lisa,
Let's get those new microphones.
can you give us a time frame from once you receive the letter, about how long it would take to have letters, envelopes prepared for all property owners in Sunset Beach?
We would outsource this because you're talking about 6,000 parcels. So I would have to contact the mailing house.
Okay.
And there'll be a charge for the mailing, the postage, the printing. So I can bring that back to you.
Okay. Typically, would we, if we're outsourcing it, we'd probably expect fairly expedient service?
I'd say within 2 weeks, once we submit it, that it should be mailed and they should have it.
Okay.
But you're also coming up on a time that the mailing houses are busy because the rental properties use those mailing houses as well to distribute their information throughout the fall and the winter.
Okay. Jan, go ahead.
What about just the affected property owners? Could we get that out in-house?
Yes.
Could we do that part of it in-house first?
Yes?
How does that strike everyone if we get it to the property owners as soon as we can?
You're talking about the impacted owners.
The impacted owners, yes.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's a good idea. And then we'll follow up with the letter to the non-impacted owners, and that'll be the same letter.
Okay.
It'll still take us about a week to get 300 plus envelopes, stuff
Yeah.
them, mail it. I mean,
Yeah.
with everybody else's regular activities.
So we're saving a week. That's all we're doing.
Well, I
We're
mean,
saving
it'd probably be
about a
2 to
week.
3 days of in-house, everybody doing, because when we did this for the, it was considerably more, but when we did it for the mailing for the flood, it took us over a week to get everything prepared and out the door
Yeah.
in batches. I mean, granted, that was still about 1,500 properties as opposed to 300, but still, you know, just taking that,
glad to help stuff.
if you want to.
Yeah, that's fine,
It's,
Greg.
it's the licking part that takes a long time.
Use a sponge.
Have we ever had a council licking party before?
Not going there.
You're not going.
I'll be absent at that meeting.
Okay. Thank you all. Okay. Back to new business, and Chief Claymore, would you like to share with us information about the request for a replacement vehicle?
Thank you, and I appreciate putting this on the agenda at the last minute. We just recently got the note or the information from the insurance company that they were going to total this vehicle out. So a little background, and I'll just summarize the paper that I gave you. I'm not going to read word for word, but we were forced during Hurricane Florence at probably its worst time to take someone to Bolivia, to Brunswick County Jail. The officer that took the person to the jail traveled the same exact route when he came back. When he went to the jail, there were no obstructions in the roadway. When he left the jail, there was a downed tree. And as he was coming upon it, he didn't see it till the last minute just due to the wind and the rain and the storm effects. He tried to take an invasive action and ended up striking the tree with the passenger side front of the vehicle. The vehicle was a 2013 Ford Interceptor SUV, the Explorer model. It's similar to every other vehicle we have in the fleet. This was our oldest vehicle in the fleet with over 110,000 miles. The insurance did decide that the vehicle was going to be a complete loss, and after our deductible, the town is going to receive a check in the amount of $9,500. The options that I've outlined here are that we could forego replacement of that vehicle. However, we budgeted, and it was approved by council, to purchase 5 additional vehicles so that we could have a vehicle assigned to each individual officer, which is hopefully going to save the town money in the long run with replacement of vehicles. It's similar to what every other agency within the immediate area of Sunset Beach is doing, allowing officers to have an assigned vehicle. If we don't replace this vehicle, it's going to eliminate our spare vehicle that we were going to use for the part-time program, which was also just approved in budgeting. And it's going to force us back into a situation where we're going to, quote, hot seat vehicles, meaning I'm going to get out of it after 12 hours. Somebody else is going to get in immediately after me, drive for another 12 hours. It's going to depreciate much faster due to the way that we would have to drive it. So my recommendation is that we replace the wrecked 2013 Ford SUV with a new 2018. And the second page of the attachment shows the breakdown of what it would cost less the insurance check. So what I'm asking councils to do is to approve the replacement of that vehicle, which would then have to be placed, correct me if I'm wrong, on the next agenda for a budget amendment.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to file a motion to authorize the purchase of a 2018 Ford Interceptor SUV. But I do have a question.
I second.
Oh, thank you, John. Would this be reimbursed by FEMA because it was an accident related to the storm? I don't know.
We can seek, and in trial, they can say no. It's not unprecedented. I'm just saying it's possible, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not a guarantee.
No, as far as Gump said, stuff happens, and this is the cost of doing business.
My thoughts are the transport to the jail.
Yeah, no.
That'd be an argument. That's probably not FEMA related.
I don't know.
But he had to come back to Sunset Beach to be here to serve
know.
for the storm.
I just raised it as a question.
Right.
that's what
I'm
the
saying
crash happened.
we were already going to look at that.
Okay.
But that doesn't excuse the when we do prepare a budget amendment, it doesn't have to be done necessarily at the next meeting.
No, no, I
But we're seeking approval to go ahead and do it. So then when we bring the budget amendment to you, it's just paperwork at that point.
No, no, it's fine. We had a second, Mr. Mayor.
I have why are we using the Ford dealership in Hardeeville, South Carolina?
The 5 vehicles that we purchased were from O.C. Welch in Hardeeville, South Carolina, and they have vehicles on the lot. Last fiscal year, when we purchased 2 vehicles, we didn't even see delivery of those until December. By the time they were outfitted, we were pushing the next fiscal year. They have a vehicle on the lot that we could take delivery of immediately.
Okay. Number 2, the removal of transferable equipment, almost $9,000. Is that realistic or reasonable?
What that is the transferable equipment, and then there's going to be a cost for equipment that cannot be transferred, because we're going from a 2013 to a 2018. So in that figure of 89,2724 also includes several pieces that are not going to be able to be transferred.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments, questions? Hearing none. Let's see, have we had the formal motion presented? I guess we have, and
Rich did.
seconded. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the final item under new business is the disposition of directives. This is packet page 29. And let me start out with a couple questions. The nonprofit organization funding policy discussion, has someone been designated to lead that discussion?
We gave you the policy at the last meeting.
And will you lead that, or should I do that?
Well, I guess you should do it because we've supplied the policy. It's up to y'all to determine if that's the policy
Okay.
you want or not. And
Okay.
then-
Good. And then secondly, the 4 items listed on the agenda for November 20th, does that still seem like the appropriate day for those 4 items?
The new fire chief has agreed to meet with me to discuss rescue rafts, buoys, rings, and that, so 11:20 is good for that.
Okay.
Um,
ERC, will that be appropriate for the 20th?
I
need a-
think we can have a meeting
I
before that.
need a meeting date. I can give you all kinds of days that I'm available.
Okay, I'll get with you after.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
And let's see, the rescue rafts, buoys, rings discussion, is that?
That's what I was
Part
talking
of-
about. That's what I was talking about.
Okay, so, and then the beach season wrap-up,
That's staff. We're
That's
ready.
police and stuff.
okay. And then, is the 20th the day we would like to discuss the cabana issue? Not that we would like to discuss the cabana issue.
It'll go along with the beach season wrap up, so I'd say it's apropos.
Okay, good, thank you. And the Fireman's Relief Fund Board Member appointment appropriate, I assume, for December 3rd. Are any of the other items on this page, items 7 through 14?
Mr. Mayor, 11 is being, 11 is being done, so that can be taken off.
Okay. And we have added for November 5th, the discussion about microphones
And employee bonus.
and employee bonus.
And I need to add, and this will be added on to the agenda anyway, but I've got 3 public hearing requests from the planning board that will just be asking for the request and giving you all the information. They'll be for December meeting, but the request will happen at the next meeting. And I also need to add an update to the Main Street sidewalk project onto 11.5.
An update, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
number 12, conflict of interest recusal. Isn't it time we put that to bed and bury it?
Mr. Nurin, that's my motion, or that's my issue. May not even make the table because it may not even be seconded. I want that on the agenda until further notice.
Well, we can leave it there, but
Yeah.
the lawyer has rendered his opinion on that.
It's my opinion,
been-
Mr. Nurin,
Would you mind
the
letting me
same
finish?
opinion you expressed today.
Okay, first Charlie, then Rich.
The lawyers has made ruling on this several times. It's been discussed to death. And I don't see any need to go forward with it.
Okay, and Councilman Serrato has a right to suggest that as an agenda item, and then council will have the right to handle it as it chooses. Public comments.
Mayor.
Wait.
You've also got to add on workplace safety policy to the 11/20 meeting.
And the communication policy amendment rewrite.
Yeah, that got tabled. We'll just be.
I just need a date.
Yeah.
For the communication policy.
I have an addition.
Okay, go ahead, John.
I would like to add a place as part of, at the end of the department reports on the agenda for the Sunset at Sunset to give us a after-action report and wrap-up.
Good, yeah.
Would that be 11:20?
11/5.
Or
11/5.
11/5.
Mr. Mayor, we're having a closed session.
Yes.
Would it be too premature? Yeah, we'll do it at the next close. Would it be too premature to talk about beach parking?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's not
That's
listed as a
fine.
land.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. We'll do it at the next closed session.
Do we have anyone who would like to make a public comment? Should we, Ruth, please.
Ruth Reynolds, I'm not going to touch this because last time I did and it was it's not friendly speaker. So I'm glad we're getting you microphone system. But Ruth Reynolds, 703 North Shore Drive. Can you hear me?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Ruth Reynolds, 703 North Shore Drive. Just a quick suggestion for the visitor sign-in sheet. One resolution would be to have a space on the same sign-in sheet so that the people that refuse, the visitors that refuse to sign in on the right-hand side or whichever side you want to put it on, their name could be applied and written down by staff member, whoever is available. It don't have to be a certain staff member. That way it's not wasting time. And then that staff member initial right out from their name. And I think that would be a solution to a simple fix for this problem. And also because a citizen or just a visitor, a non-citizen that comes in that refuses to sign in, you wonder what their intentions are. So, you know, and we don't have an electronic system for their carry bag or their purse or something to run through to make sure there's no firearms or knives or any of that. So anyway, that's just a suggestion. And the unsafe thing, you know, if an employee feels unsafe by an elected official, I think the person that they're bringing it against, if there is no just cause, then the employee has no business being employed by the town.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to make a public comment?
Greg Jensen at the new and improved 1309 East Main Street. I just want to agree on Councilman Serrata's motion on citizen parking for our town residents. The beach only gets really packed on several holidays, but I hate to say it, but in previous towns where I lived up north, we did have town parking lots. You did purchase a sticker if you wish to go to the beach, and we did hire some high school kids to monitor those lots. We had 3 in the town that I lived in Massachusetts, but I agree with Councilman that we do need some parking for our citizens.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, as Rich mentioned, we do have a closed session. We won't come, town council won't be meeting here again after the closed session, so we will set you free, and council will go into